he drank a lot, for one thing. Like, he would get very, very drunk, but he could still sort of handle himself, and sometimes his disciples would actually pour liquor into him and have him writing with, by hand, something from memory from a Tibetan script. And he would be so drunk that his hand would sort of fall, and then they would put it back on, and he would start right where he was again. And that sort of amazed them that he was able to do that. I think from a very early age, he also was prone to having visions. And so he would, his first trip that he took to Sikkim, he wrote a pecha, sort of like an account of it, which I was able to get and get translated. And in there, I really got a picture into how he thinks, because it's his own words, talking about how he went to this particular place, and while he was there, he sat quietly, and he went into a state that was neither dreaming nor, neither sleeping nor being awake, some in-between state, and then he was visited by a deity. And then he has a whole dialogue with this deity. And so I think he was very prone to sort of these things where he, some other energy, some force or whatever would then come to him, and then he was open to it. So I think to do that, you have to be, you can't be a normal, pedantic, scholar of Tibetan Buddhism sitting in your monastery, being pious or something. You have to, there's something about it that you have that special quality which allows you to go over the edge, and to who else could take you to a land of immortality but someone who was half crazy, because it's the name of the book that I've written. It's going to be published by Penguin India in 2011. And but the name of it is A Crack in the World. So it's like he's going to take you through a crack in the world. It's a place outside of the coordinates of latitude and longitude. And who could possibly get you there but someone who was, crazy in a certain way, or what we would call crazy, or that tulshuk nature, mutable and changeable. And so the son that I spoke with, the only son of Tulshuk Lingpa, he was not a Turtan, and he was a lay person, though held in very high, very learned and held in very high esteem. But, and he had a bit of the quality, through him I saw some of the quality of his father also, I think. And he was also, I have over 50 hours of taped interviews with him, and when I listened to it to transcribe them, I saw half the time we were just hysterically laughing. He saw great reverence for his father and undoubting about what he was doing, but also seeing the total absurdity in trying to pass into another land. Like, he was able to laugh at it and be totally serious about it. Very tulshuk. And often when, I would have a time to go see him, he just wouldn't be there. He was also, breaking appointments, because he's just, you say one thing in the morning, something else in the afternoon. So in the morning, say, yeah, come around 2, and you come at 2, and he's not there. Typical. Yeah, he got into trouble in Sikkim in a pretty major way. I think a lot of it was because many people in Sikkim who'd been waiting generations for this Lama to arrive were all flocking to him, and they were all, you don't plow and plant your fields when you're going to the hidden land, so they were all leaving their duties in this world behind, which was the concern, I think, of the king of Sikkim, who he didn't take well to his subjects going after this Lama for various reasons. And so there was a point where the king sent representatives who told him he would have to perform a miracle, or else the threat was go to jail. And so he put his foot in stone up in a monastery above Tashiding in a place called Sinon, and it's still there. And then he got into trouble with that, because the representative of the king was supposed to be there, and he was late. And when he got there, it ended up that it was the chief of police, and he was a Punjabi. And so he came. He was a very good policeman, and he pulled out a tape measure, and he said, "Okay, show me this miracle." And then they went there, and he measured the footprint, and I've seen it. It's quite small, and he measured the Lama's foot, and it was quite much bigger. And he said, "I'm gonna," he wanted to take him off to jail, and they wouldn't let him. The rest of the people, the chief of police made it out with his life, basically, with the threat, "I'm going to tell the king." So the next day, they left the kingdom and then went to Nepal, because the gate they were going to open, it was on, the hidden land is on Mount Kanchenjunga, third highest mountain on the planet, which straddles Sikkim and Nepal, so they were actually going from the Nepal side. And then the Nepali king heard that they were there and sent the troops after them. And they were surrounded for 3 days by like 60 guys with big rifles till they could finagle their way out of that. And what I found with Tushul Lingpa's story is throughout the whole story, there are all these little, strange little twists in it, where you see that he was really very always on that edge. He was always Tulshuk. He was always like changeable at all times, really. So it makes for a great story, of course. Yeah. Right. Not only did he drink, but I think he really he had lots of women also. And I know I spent a lot of time with his son by his official first wife. They had quite a few children. And his son, I spent a lot of time with the son, and he described how after he had received these the visions telling him that he was going to, that you are the one destined to open up this hidden land and Sikkim, he started talking about how he had to take on a khandro, like a female consort. And for Turtans, for these treasure revealers, it's quite important. It always says that they have to have a khandro with them. It's sort of like Beatrice taking Dante into the hidden world, or into hell or heaven. And, it's like the female guide. It has to be there. So then his son described to me, he was quite young at the time. He might have been, I'm guessing he was maybe 10, 12 at that time. And he said these very, very beautiful, very well-dressed Tibetan women started showing up at his place, and they would clear everybody out, and they always had a scarf over their face, only their eyes showing. And you could just tell they were beautiful women, and they would come in, and then he said they would never come out. And so we knew that they were these consorts, these mystical, these khandros. And then I asked him, how do you know that it's not just that they didn't just stay till morning, or something? And he said, no, we always, And then he did take on another consort that was then with him, a young woman whom I met and spent a little bit of time with, and so he sort of he officially took her on as a consort, and when he went up the mountain, she was with him, and like that. But I think that he was also very attractive to women. He was very beautiful to look at, and I think women, very charismatic, and was this Lama who was going to take everybody like a great hero. And I think women just absolutely fell for him. And so he had many, also this Khandro's younger sister was also with him right at the end and was also one of his consorts. And so I think he had many women. He would drink, he would have visions, he would joke about the most serious things also. He would get drunk. After he had this vision, he would get drunk and tell all of his disciples here up in Lahul, where he was in Himachal Pradesh, he would tell them, one day we will leave here and we will go to the promised land, and half the people immediately thought he was just a crazy drunken Lama. And the rest were like, well, pushing him, let's go. When do we go? And he would always say, timing is what's important for that. I think that they don't follow anybody else's rules. I think that's really the first and the major thing that sort of comes to mind, is that they're a law unto themselves. They do things that are totally, against what you should do. And people have great respect for them, so they appreciate that above what they would appreciate the person who goes by all of the laws. Like by breaking the laws, I think there's something in the tradition also. It might be different than a renegade Catholic priest might not have the adoration that in Buddhism allows for this, that the true understanding is sort of not found in the scriptures. It's not even found in the religion itself. Like you use it, like what I think the Buddha said, that take the Dharma, take the teachings like a raft. When you get to the other side, you just leave it behind. You don't need that. And I think there's that understanding. So this is like someone who's like alive and has made it through to that other part, and people just delight in their craziness because it shows the highest wisdom.